I just want to say is that even though this is not, this topic, as I just before when we start these chapters, I mentioned already, do not expect, of course you might have some idea, you learn something from here, you don't necessarily think that this is such an easy, concept or the easy ideas that you can just because I learn from a class, And people spend years and years, even in theory, I don't mean the experience, just the theory. People spend years and years to actually to fully, really, get to it, or get interest to it even. So, but this is just a kind, take it, this is like, just the outset or just the start for you to know, okay, actually, this is really one of the important concepts in Buddhism. I don't necessarily totally understand what they are, but you know that's actually something like that is there. But of course, ultimately, I still hope that reading this book, it's then you certainly may be fine. Actually, sometimes what kind of perspective or what kind of view you should possess, maybe, or what kind of understanding you should learn, or maybe how do you have the better understanding for your better life, basically, I guess. Then you might be, since you have learned this, and then I'm sure if you still keep this kind of concept, not necessarily fully understanding in your mind, then you'll find actually maybe makes your life much easier and better,
Yeah. Are you saying that because of the non-attachment and less suffering? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And so it may be, hey, I don't really fully understand what this is all about, but if I can adopt certain attributes of this at certain times in my life, like letting go of whether I like the tea or not, hey, it's fluids and I'm thirsty, then I'm just not going to suffer so much.
Yes, yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? Bante, if you don't mind, may I ask your name?
Oh, my name's Cheryl.
I'm sorry?
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Yeah.
Cheryl.
If you make a little bit of time to listen, the internet is fabulous. To the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the Paticcasamuppada, or what is called the Satipatthana Sutta. It goes blow by blow by blow. It explains so well. That is a very powerful background of what this is all about.
Okay.
The 4 foundations of mindfulness. There is this man, Joseph Goldstein, and he is obviously he's Christian, and he studied under tremendous masters, Burmese masters and Thai masters. And he explains it so well, all the concepts and the aggregates so well. And if you would make time to study that, just 20 minutes or half an hour, it is in the internet. Okay. This would make so much more sense.
All right.
Okay, by the way, but I hope that because everyone, not necessarily everyone here know who is a Buddhaghosa. Anyone want to say something about Buddhaghosa?
My favorite author.
He's the author of the Visuddhimagga.
Yeah. No, I just want people.
Visuddhimagga, the passive purification.
No, which century person he is?
6th. Is it 6th or 5th?
500 something. You could say 6th century. Yeah,
and he wrote commentary for all the Nikayas.
Not all the Nikayas, actually.
4.
No. But some Nikayas attribute to him, but that certainly he had written some of the very important commentary. And the most famous textbook, which book he was written? He wrote which textbook? Yeah, the Visuddhimagga. Yeah. But you have to translate what is a Visuddhimagga.
Passive purification.
The part of, so, all right.
Yeah. It's like a meditation Bible and everything in it. I go to the desert, I didn't bring that book. Okay, anyway, so,
otherwise, you maybe just find why suddenly you mention a person called Buddhaghosa. I mean, just because especially in Theravada Buddhism, he's considered as one of the the most important, the master in the past, who have compiled a book that the Visuddhimagga, the path of purification. I guess, of course, if you look at that, even a longer history, is during when the Theravada Buddhism started in Sri Lanka, you could say that way. Actually, they also go through a lot of schism. So I mean that people have different opinions about how to regard actually the Agama or the Nikayas is about. And the Buddhaghosa served as one of the important figures that established so-called nowadays people try to claim they belong to the Orthodox Theravada as so-called from the school called Mahavihara. Because at that time in Sri Lanka they divided into 3 schools, which are but I mean, even though the other school was accused, I mean the Mahavihara accused them actually they are not holding the so-called pure teachings, but to be objective way of looking at it, not from a Theravada way of looking at it. Of course, Theravada think they are not pure, so that's why they've been completely wind up somehow, And but if you look at the material that we gather, they also actually still holding the same the Nikaya, but it's only they might have a different perspective, which is not agreed by some other school. Until when Buddhaghosa arrived in Sri Lanka, and then of course it is somehow somehow the Buddhaghosa has established a really a ground foundation doctrinally, you could say. So that's why Buddhaghosa serves as one of the important figure in the Theravada Buddhism. Okay. All right. So let's just go on and reading the next next paragraph. That all this. I mean, I'm going to read, right? So.
All this may sound very conceptual, abstract, and philosophical, but it is related rather precisely to the Buddhist understanding of spiritual practice. For there is one more aspect of the teaching of dependent arising that I have so far left unmentioned. The 12-fold formula I quoted above is in accordance with this arising of suffering, but when the formula is quoted in Buddhist texts, it is nearly always quoted with a second version in the order of the ceasing of suffering. With the utter fading away and ceasing of ignorance is the ceasing of formations. With the ceasing of formations is the ceasing of consciousness. With the ceasing of consciousness is the ceasing of mind and body. With the ceasing of mind and body is the ceasing of 6 senses. With the ceasing of the 6 senses is the ceasing of the sense contact. With the ceasing of sense contact is the ceasing of feeling. With the ceasing of feeling is the ceasing of craving. With the ceasing of craving is the ceasing of grasping. With the ceasing of grasping is the ceasing of becoming. With the ceasing of becoming is the ceasing of birth. With the ceasing of birth is the ceasing of old age and death. Grief, lamentation, pain, sorrow, and despair cease. Thus is the ceasing of this entire mass of suffering.
All right, so I guess that's very easy to understand, not necessarily experientially, but I mean conceptually. All right, and next one, anyone? Yeah, and so we're going to read the next one. I think maybe your turn now. Yeah.
Okay. Thus, not only does dependent arising hold the key to the way in which beings become enmeshed in suffering, it also points to the way in which they can free themselves from suffering. Precisely because all things occur in accordance with the law of dependent arising, small changes in the nature of the conditions that constitute the process can produce different effects. And because the mind contains the seeds of wholesome action, namely non-attachment, friendliness, and wisdom, as well as unwholesome action, the root cause of suffering, namely ignorance and craving, can be gradually undermined and eradicated. It is because selfhood or personal continuity resides in the cause of conditioning that is circumscribed by dependent arising that we can change, that we can bring about the cessation of suffering. Indeed, if I were unchanging self, what would be the point of trying to change myself? The spiritual life could be meaningless. the work of Buddhist practice, then it's quite simply to cultivate those conditions that set in motion and bring about the process of the ceasing of ignorance, leading to the ceasing of suffering. A significant ancient variation on the formula of dependent arising, having detailed the standard sequence of conditions leading to the arising of this whole mass of suffering, thus goes on to state that. Shall I continue?
I think maybe we don't have to read this one because I guess otherwise. Yeah, anyway, read it because it's important. So conditioned by
one, suffering, there is 2, faith. Conditioned by faith, there is 3, gladness. Conditioned by gladness, there is 4, joy. Conditioned by joy, there is 5, tranquility. Conditioned by tranquility, there is 6, happiness. Conditioned by happiness, there is 7, concentration. Conditioned by concentration, there is 8, knowledge and vision of what truly is. Conditioned by knowledge and vision of what truly is, there is 9, disenchantment. Conditioned by disenchantment, there is 10, dispassion. Conditioned by dispassion, there is 11, freedom. Conditioned by freedom, there is 12, knowledge that the defilements are destroyed.
Okay. All right. Can someone read the next one?
This version of formula introduces some of the technical terminology of Buddhist meditation, which will be discussed in the next chapter. But what we must understand here is that Buddhist thought envisages that there are essentially 2 currents of the mind, one leading towards the arising of suffering and one leading towards its cessation. Both function according to the process of dependent arising. Since this describes the way things are, whether or not there is any Buddha or Buddhist teaching in the world to draw it to our attention, the law of dependent arising is the way things are. It is Dharma, even when there is no Buddha in the world to point this out.
Okay, thank you. And next one, the chain of dependent arising.
The chain of dependent arising is sometimes referred to in Buddhist texts as the well of becoming, Bhava Chakra. There is an old tradition of representing this graphically. Indeed, instructions for this are included in the Mula Sarvastivadin Vinaya. Although nowadays the tradition is continued only in Tibetan Buddhism, the well itself is still clutched in the hand of the jaw of Yama, the god of death. The outer circle shows the 12 links: a blind man, ignorance; a potter fashioning a pot, formation; a monkey picking a fruit, consciousness; a boat on a journey, mind and body; a house with 6 windows, the 6 senses, the 6 sense spheres; a couple embracing, sense contact; a man struck in the eye with an arrow, feeling; a man drinking, thirst; a man taking hold of a fruit, grasping; a pregnant woman, becoming; a woman in labor, birth; a man carrying a corpse to a charnel ground, old age and death. The next circle shows 6 basic realms of rebirth. At the top, the heavenly realms of the gods. Moving clockwise, the jealous gods, animals, hells, hungry ghosts, and humans. Moving inward again, we see being rising on the left and falling on the right. At the hub, driving the whole process, are cock, greed; a snake, hatred; and a pig, ignorance.
All right. So, anything to discuss about that? Nothing. We can move on.
I saw on the video that you were explaining the 3 driving force, 3 animals: the snake, the pig, and the bird.
Yeah.
It's a cock, or it's some kind of bird.
Sometimes they use chicken as well. Yeah.
Chicken.
Yeah.
And a pigeon.
A pigeon, yes. Yeah.
You said originally they're supposed to be pigeon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's when it's supposed to be pigeon, it's based on the Mula Saravasti Vada Vinaya. So, but a lot of people thinking this picture is more like a Tibetan. So this is what I want to say. But if you look at the Chinese, you have this Vinaya being translated into Chinese. But in the Vinaya, actually, because since the Tibetan tradition followed the Mula Saravasti Vada Vinaya, that's the reason why they have a tradition in the temple. They have these kind of pictures depicted, because according to the Vinaya there, that it's but it is according to Vinaya, it's actually advised by the Buddha they have to draw these pictures on the wall, beside beside the dormitory of the monk in the living places, yeah, to remind this dependent arisings and remind about the three poisons, as well as that, the 6 realms of existence.
Samsara.
Yeah, remind that, But actually, on the top of it, it's supposed to be have the white ones on top of this yaka. But now, later on in Tibet, of course, the yaka they been depicted as more like a mahakala in the Tibetan kind of the guardian's god. But then on the top of it is supposed to have one of the white color one that represent the nirvana. So, and that's supposed to be the better pictures, But even if you look learning the arts, so this is certainly in Tibet also, somehow for some reason they change because of, as I say, like a pigeons, and they change to the kitchen. Maybe this for Tibetan people not easy to see a pigeon, So, but they maybe carry the same meanings. All right, let's see some paragraph of did the Buddha deny the existence of self, right? So I guess because especially in the West, and as I say now, in the East maybe they don't care whether they exist because the concept of self is not necessarily very important, but to understand the no self is very difficult, so it doesn't matter. That if you want to say that what is the culture different, that might be the culture. Is they don't care whether the self or no self. Ask them to take their brain to understand no self will be too much work for them. They don't care. That's fine, But in the West, maybe the concept of self is tremendously important in some way, religious-wise especially, I guess. Yeah.
So do I read the paragraph or we skip it?
I guess if we are going to, if this is Asian, they don't care about this. We can ignore this paragraph.
Where would you like me to pick up?
Yeah. Anyway, so
Did the Buddha deny?
Did the Buddha deny the existence of self? So I have been discussed. Do you want to read that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I have been discussing just what is involved in the Buddhist denial of the self and some of the possible philosophical difficulties that arise from conceiving of persons in terms of sequences of causality, connected physical and mental events rather than enduring substances. As I've indicated, the philosophical and conceptual elaboration of the teaching of no self in conjunction with that of dependent arising is one of the hallmarks of Buddhist thought. But the view that the teaching of no self annihilates the individual and with it the basis of morality has been a feature of the work of a number of 19th and 20th century scholars of Buddhism. Some of these accept the conclusion that the teaching of the Buddhist is thus irredeemably nihilistic. Others have argued that the Buddhist elaboration of the teaching of no self is the work of later scholastics who have misunderstood what the Buddha actually taught. Such scholars generally proceed by pointing to the fact that in the earliest texts, the Buddha certainly uses the term self, and at the same time fails to deny categorically the existence of the self. Much in the matter of certain
Upanishadic. Upanishad.
Right, teachers. The Buddha is merely represented as stated what is not the self. Thus, it is claimed, when the aggregates are said not to be self, only the things that constitute our ordinary experience are denied as self. The door is left open for metaphysical absolute self that underlies or is beyond these experiences, the mysterious, ungraspable Atman of the Upanishads. The argument here is that as a pragmatic teacher, either the Buddha was an agnostic as far as a metaphysical self was concerned, or he didn't indeed accept its existence, but wished to avoid becoming involved in unnecessary speculations concerning its ultimate nature.
All right, thank you. So I guess that's
Very profound.
it is because yeah. All right. But actually, you have to know it's because if you know the reader Rupert Gethin, he was my professor in England. So of course, even in England, he was very famous, not only just because he know Pali and Sanskrit very well, but as a scholar as well, and he actually also very well known in Abhidhamma. So that's the reason. So I like this book. Why I mean, it's a little bit difficult maybe for some people to begin with, but then certainly it's a really good book to start with too, because I like to read something more challenging rather than really like blank, right? Or just like one answer for you. No, you must learn something there which always gives you question. So and also because you have a wider scope, also knowing that what happening around people arguing certain thing. And here, of course, the book is very short. It's not going to give you all the answers, but at least you know people do have different speculations. Okay, good. Now let's just see the point that the Buddha. So yeah, do you want to read finish it? The next one. Yeah.
The point that the Buddha uses the term self in the earliest text has in effect already been dealt with above, since it is to be referred to the distinction between the conventional and ultimate truth. Moreover, it should be noted in a connection that the word Atma is used in Sanskrit as an ordinary reflexive pronoun. Thus, if one wants to say he threw himself into the river in Sanskrit, one says that he threw his Atma into the river without any suggestion that it is his eternal and immortal soul that has been thrown into the river.
All right, the next one.
The point that the Buddha fails to deny the self but only states what is not is more interesting. In one particular passage of the Nikayas, we are taught how the Buddha was once asked by the wanderer
Vachakota. What you have when there's a double, you know what you have to pose Vachakota. Yeah. When there's a double T, just pose a little gota. Okay. Then read it like a Spanish maybe.
Whether the self existed, the Buddha remained silent. Vachakota asked whether the self did not then exist. The Buddha once again remained silent. Buddha then explained to the curious Ananda that if he had answered that the self exists, it would have been to side with those ascetics and Brahmins who hold the doctrine of eternalism. Moreover, it would not have been in accordance with his understanding that all phenomena, Dhamma, are not self. On the other hand, if he had answered that the self does not exist, it would have been to side with those ascetics and Brahmins who hold the doctrine of analyticism. Moreover, it would have through Paul Vachakota into even more confusion. He would have concluded that formerly he had a self, but now he did not.
All right, I get you a lot of confusion. Shall we just read the next paragraph and other paragraph? Can you?
I need to pass because I just got turned off.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's okay.
That's all right. So yeah.
David.
Huh?
David.
That's all right. So David. Essentially.
Okay,
Okay, essentially this refusal to answer Vajragoda categorically must be seen in the same light as the refusal to give the unequivocal answer to the 10 undetermined question, that is, the terms in which the question is couched are not accepted. Furthermore, we should note that while the Buddha may refuse to give a categorical answer when asked whether or not the self exists, it is nevertheless recorded as stating that all those ascetics and Brahmins who contemplate the self in various ways, in fact, contemplate the five aggregates or one of them, and on the basis of this come to the conclusion, I exist. This makes it clear, I think, that to talk of a self that exists apart from the five aggregates is meaningless for the Buddha. Thus, the Buddha's silence here is not about leaving the door open for some mysterious, ungraspable absolute self. The Buddha's suggestion to Ananda that if he had told Vajragoda that the self does not exist, he would have become even more confused is revealed.
All right. Okay. The last paragraph. So thank you.
What is that issue here is not so much the question of the existence or non-existence of the self, but that in seeking to answer the question of its existence, the ordinary unawakened mind that is not free from grasping inevitably gets entangled in views and theories about the self. As we have seen, the awakened mind, on the other hand, breaks free from all views about the self. Part of the problem here stems from a failure on the part of some modern scholars to appreciate the relationship between the intellectual, cognitive, and emotional, affective dimensions of the teaching of no self. From the Buddhist perspective, the mind needs to give up all attachments to any view about the self. That is, to think, I do not exist, reveals no less preoccupation and entanglement with the notion of myself and its existence than to think I exist. Buddhist thought is thus concerned with both our conscious intellectual theories about ourselves and also the way in which our minds and emotions cling to the idea of our individual existence at a subconscious level. This is well illustrated by the theory of the monk Khemaka, who informs a group of monks that although he does not view any of the aggregates as the self, yet the idea of his own existence in the subtle form of the conceit I am clings to the aggregates as a faint smell of dirt might still cling to washcloth.
All right, thank you. Now, at least I'm glad that at least we finished the whole topic of the no self, which is it's unlike the previous discussions because it's more, how to say, more. Maybe it sounds like it more cheering, right? Rather than this concept is a little more. People are really like racking their brain and thinking what they are talking about, and and especially when you still hold whatever you believe in the past, and that's and some sentence doesn't really easy to go through your brain. But I'm talking this even and even being when I was become a monk long ago. So when it's very interesting. I mean, we know that in Buddhism we certainly have this concept of no self. I mean, say that you're really into the Buddhist doctrine or the Buddhist teachings, but then it's not necessarily really where we are really wanted to pay attention. As I say, I cannot represent the Western culture, but I definitely know myself that, it's not something really I want to really want to think about it, unless really because of meditation reason or whatever other reasons they've been forced, especially when you study, you really want to be good at the subject, so and then you have to be really kind of like a dukkha, understand of the dukkha, you've been pushed in a corner, and then you started to really think about, whether there's a self, and what are these, and that's the believing in the self, or no self, which is actually is really the better way for me. Anyway, let's see what you have any comments, and any comments maybe more welcome than the questions.
Fanizaro says, he puts it very, very in a very useful way. And he says, it's true, the Buddha never said that there is no self, because obviously he understood that we have this concept of self. But Fanizaro puts it, this is a monk that lives in California, he puts it in a way that I think is very helpful. He says, don't worry whether the self or no self exists, but be more concerned of polishing the self, making a very skillful self. And that is what is basically he considers the proverbial raft that crosses the other side of the shore. It's the skillful self. And that really spoke to me volumes. Instead of me pondering whether am I getting attached to a self right now or no? Instead of that, make this self, because while I'm still an unenlightened person, an ordinary person, and recognize that, I might as well just concentrate in forming this conceptual self that still exists in me in a very skillful way. So in recognizing, because this whole thing about the self is more a convoluted thing of concepts and ideas. So, and basically views. So if I were to work on a skillful self, I can see more clearly about the attachments to the views and what makes this self. And that, in making that and going in that path and concentrating on making a skillful self, I'm more able to see the craving of the views, because this is like the glue, that craving of the views that makes it forms it and makes it in a deeper groove, or makes it stronger, this idea of self. So I thought that way was a lot more helpful in my practice when he explains this idea of, in his book is called The Shaping of Suffering. He explains that. I thought that was very helpful for me.
We have 2 times to go. It's really surprising. I thought that there would be a long paragraph. No any discussion, anything?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
On page 157, let's see. The first paragraph, the seventh line, or because the mind contains the seeds of the wholesome action, namely non-attachment, frankness, and wisdom. Those 3 are in the non-attachment. How would you translate it into Chinese? Is it no greed, or should it be? Because in the Chinese translation they use no greed.
没无贪嘛?
是无贪吗? No, non-attachment 是无贪吗?
And because of my contains the seeds of wholesome actions.
还是出离?
应该是不知道哎，这个我也不知道，这个要看它出自哪里。I don't even know where this paragraph come from.
It could be from the 8 bottom part.
I think it's not truly. It's maybe more like because truly is been 处理叫什么? What is English translation? But anyway, I think this is maybe no. Yeah, it's no non-greed. Yeah.
Renunciation.
Yeah, renunciation. No, I don't think. I don't. No, I think it's more like actually this is this paragraph here, whether it's when you say that somebody have the wholesome mind, it's because the mind have this non-attachment. Yeah, it's why you want to think that non-attachment is a renunciation? No, yeah. I think it's just like when there's somebody have this good wholesome action, right? So that means non-greed. Like when the 10 kusala actions, 就是13业嘛. So one of the unwholesome action is the greed, right? And second is the wrong view. So I think that is the opposite to that. It's that somebody have non-greed. Yeah.
I thought that might be connected to page 81, the right intention.
The right intention is a desirelessness. The desire is mean the greed actually. Yeah. Yes, actually in Chinese is 也是无贪啊. Yeah, it's friendliness and compassion. Yeah. But still that is mean no grace, nothing to do with the renunciation. Yeah. I mean, when I say nothing to do, I mean it's not about renunciation here. Yeah.
This is like the skillful self, following the Noble Eightfold Path.
Yeah, yes, that's why it's a link to the page 81. That is the Noble Eightfold Path. Yeah.
Because the Chinese translation here is Li Yi. Page 120.
Yeah, but I think that I'm not sure. That's why I usually don't think that when the right intention, usually even the right intention, I do not remember the definition by because you have viraga. Ri mean viraga in Pali. I don't think so. So viraga usually been understood it's been understood as a process rather than the unit or the component of the Dharma, you see. So big say that by understanding of a certain thing, and then the viraga has taken place, but you don't say the viraga as a component of, say that, the right intention. You don't use that way. I mean, linguistic wise, you don't express it that way. You see, you could express that Dharma has the, how to say, characteristic. Dharma has this what do you call? It's liable. Or Dharma is liable to be able. Is liable. Or you could say have such a nature to be. This have the viraga or like Li Yu. Yeah, I mean anyway, so that's a problem when you see a lot of translation. Now you have a lot of translation. I don't think so. It must be mean the mostly mean about without the tanha, no, without the craving. Okay, any other questions or comments? Or what you feel, because we need at least linger a few minutes and then we can end at the class.
Why is it Why is it monkey representing consciousness?
Because it's the consciousness just flow all the time, like randomly or what in general, like a monkey, cannot let the mind settle down like a monkey.
I experience it so much differently than that. I know what you're talking about, the stream of consciousness. And monkey mind is what they call it.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
But to me, a sense of consciousness is far more profound. I remember the moment I became conscious
Mm.
as an individual. And it was not monkey mind.
Yeah, of course I mean, we just only depict why the person are still kind of like rolling in the wheel again and again because the monkey mind is there. But when you have a focused mind or the awareness mind, and then of course then you don't have the monkey mind. And this is also, I mean, this is just, well, of course this, we are basically, I mean, this is just describe why people are still in the samsara. I mean, why the person is still in the reincarnated again and again and bound to suffering, because that they don't know that actually it's very important to tame that kind of mind that like a monkey is there. Especially this is just depicted in the pictures, because you want to describe something more, you know, kind of like a picturized kind of vision there. So you just describe a person conscious as like monkey. I don't think that a lot of people will agree with that. I mean, I don't think lots of people would think about that even. They would not think that their mind actually always, like a lot of people are fiddle or fidget with many things, right? You say that, just stop your monkey mind, they will not agree. How can I have monkey mind? I'm not, my mind is working perfectly well, right? So, right. But I mean, these pictures will just tell you that normally people, if they don't train the mind, then it's mind normally just like monkey mind. Right?
Like we said in Chinese, 心猿意马.
Yeah.
But we don't have a horse other than the monkey. We have two.
Oh, I don't know the Chinese.
Like your mind is like a monkey.
Your mind is like a monkey.
And it runs like a horse.
But that's interesting simile, because in Buddhism you do have the horse also. Usually the horse is being, it's not actually, it's not famously used in the Pali version, but in the Sanskrit it does have this saying that our samskara, here the samskara refer to our mental formation in the 5 aggregates. It's actually running like a horse. Yeah. So, but that's especially if you find in Mahayana text, it might have that kind of depiction. In Sanskrit, I want to say mostly. Yeah. But that's interesting Chinese idiom. So you never know. Could you relate that how the idioms comes along? Maybe that's because of influence by Buddhism. So, yeah, the mind like
there is a saying like dated way before Zhuangzi. He says, 坐止, sitting but running.
No, I mean the idiom. Do you think that? Yeah. So I see. All right. Why? Any other comments, right? Anymore?
Can I take this one thing home?
Yeah.
The schedule?
Yeah, sure, of course, yeah. Okay, so now then just a little assignment is if you have time, then you need to learn. We are going to proceed to the next chapter, the Buddhist path. And of course, especially people who are interested in meditation, this certainly is one of the very, I would say, salient topics. So the Buddhist path, I guess you can, because there's a certain argument about what the faith mean, and then what does the samadhi mean, the concentration mean, and what the wisdom is about. And also actually as I said, because the author is well written also, well read. So he also knows a lot of different arguments, either Theravada, Mahayana, especially scholarly, argue whether you need to have a really powerful concentration or not, and so forth. And as he actually expert in, especially in the Agama or the Nikayas, and as well, I mean, many in the Theravada kind of texts. So I guess that would be you have a bit broader understanding how how this you maybe not necessarily all you agree upon, but it's actually the main thing about reading the thing is not ask you to be it's not about yes and no, but it's more like it can open your horizon, your horizon, expand your horizon, your understanding, or you're looking at the thing, It's so we if you can go back to read until 174, okay, if I'm sure that once you come to 174 page, so you might be wanted to read more the practice of calm meditation and so forth. But we will leave that for another, maybe a little bit debatable topic. And I like to address that a lot also, because I know that I've been in the circle of meditation circle for quite a long time. So I definitely know that lots of people are always holding the idea, my teacher, my way is like that. So that's the only one. Then the others say, no, my teacher, my way. I have been go through a lot of this. And especially when I was abbot in some other places also, different nuns, monks, oh, that was so difficult. Everybody think, Buddhism say about no self and about don't attach to the will. By the end, the self and the wills, oh, is very strong. But anyway, that would be, So, I mean, this is how I learned. Of course, I know, even when I was younger, I was a little strong also, but I think I still have one good thing. I don't speak. I just keep it in my mind. I don't want to give people trouble. I just keep it in my mind because I know that as far as I'm not arahant, I cannot be fully understand everything, Right. That's why of course I can request and learning, asking how they think, but not necessarily sometimes in my mind because I was very stubborn also. But I mean, this is I want to say people who especially you just come today or newly come for learn this book, because in the first when I introduced this book, I was sad. I like this book not because he was my professor, kind of like I know what he thinks somehow, not necessarily I know everything because I don't even know myself. How can I know other persons so well? But I want to say is that somehow at least I like the book because it's not very narrow that saying that this is the way. No. But it's giving you actually have much more space to think about. That's what I usually like, that kind of book. And at least my own experience like that is always you must keep yourself open. This is how you can gain your wisdom. So always by questioning, by doubting. At first you need to faith. This is how we are going to talk about what does a faith here means in the next chapter too. All right. Anyway, thank you for your coming. So I hope to see you next week again. No, next week. I think in September the 1st, September 1st, I knew that it's 7th of September. That will be next week, in 2 weeks, I guess. 2 weeks or next week? Next week. I will see you next week time anyway.
The week after.
Yeah, I know, but afterward then we have a little long break too. Okay, right. Yeah. Thanks for coming. So see you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you. So. Oh yeah, transfer marriage. Forget. We cannot. Sadhu, 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 sadhu.